avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, c'est le voyage en toute tranquillité, en toute beauté, de votre maison jusqu'à votre destination. Votre satisfaction est notre plaisir.
Pour toutes vos informations en politique, en économie, en sport, en santé, retrouvez Yves Kenao sur Tempo Afrique TV, la station de l'éveil du continent africain.
Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to Premium Law Access. My name is Uche Waneri, attorney and co-founder of Premium Law Firm. We are an immigration law firm and we represent clients all over the United States. The topic today will be fiancé visas, all about fiancé visas. And I'm going to be talking to you about what this is about. So, as usual, these programs are for educational purposes and will not constitute any form of legal advice. If you need any legal advice or consultation, feel free to reach me at the number below, and that's the 713-730-2900. So what indeed are fiancé visas? Fiancé visas are really when you intend to bring your fiance over to the United States. And usually this is by a consular process. So 3 departments are involved in this process. You have the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services involved. You have the Department of State involved, and you have the Custom and Border Patrol involved. So I will be explaining all of this to you during the segment. So who can apply or petition for a fiancé visa? You have to be a United States citizen in order to petition. A lawful permanent resident will not have fiancé visas available. So you cannot apply if you are a lawful permanent resident. So what, in terms of eligibility, who is eligible and what does it mean to be eligible to apply? So in order for you to apply, like I said earlier, you have to be a United States citizen. Secondly, the intent should be for you and your fiancé or your fiance to get married within 90 days after entry into the United States. Thirdly, there has to be a legal termination of marriage. And this really means that if you were in a previous relationship, you should properly terminate that, whether by a divorce or an annulment, but you have to end any previous relationship. Fourthly, will be you would have met your fiancé or fiance within 2 years before applying for this visa. So when you say meeting, it's actually meeting in person. So example, if you are here in the United States and your fiancé is in Togo, it is expected as one of the eligibility requirements that you would have met your fiance or fiancé in Togo at least within 2 years before you are before you apply for your fiancé visa. Are there exceptions to this? There are some situations where, ideally meeting someone in person is not practicable. And immigration, the USCIS gives room for these exceptions. These exceptions are usually when it is against your custom. In some customs, it is a taboo or it's not even permitted for prospective spouses to meet in person before the actual marriage. So that's excusable. Also, when it will cause undue hardship. Maybe for some reason, if your fiance or fiancé is in a country that's being plagued by a war, or it's just not practicable to get down there for some reason, and it will cause you undue hardship, then it's also excusable. That meeting in person requirements can be excused. That this has to be explained to immigration, and they have a discretion whether or not to allow that. So having said that, the next question will be, how does one apply for a fiancé visa? Well, remember the 3 departments I mentioned earlier. First, USCIS, the DLS, and the Customs and Border Patrol. So in order to apply, the US citizen has to petition for the fiancé or the fiancé here in the United States, and that is with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. So you file a petition, and if that petition gets approved, it's usually you get approved and the fiancé is given about 5 months within which to apply for the fiancé visa. So once the petition that is filed in the United States is approved, the file now goes from USCIS to the National Visa Center. And that's the arm where you have the Department of State. It's under the Department of State. The file gets transferred to the National Visa Center. The National Visa Center now will coordinate and collect all the remaining documents and forward the entire file when complete to the embassy of where your fiancé or fiancé will be residing. That's in that country. And that's where you have the consular practice. So where in this situation, the file is complete, it is sent to the embassy will now schedule an interview with your fiancé or your fiancé. And at this interview, because you'll be asked some questions, after the interview, the consular officer will now stamp a K visa, K1 visa in your passport. So this now allows you to enter the United States. So with that, one is going to be very happy, right? After receiving the visa. Yes. And then you can now plan your trip to unite with your fiancé or your fiancé. So now you board your flight, you get into the country, and you enter. You'll be entering through an airport. That's the port of entry. You're now going to be subjected to another screening, and that is where you have the Customs and Border Patrol. So you'll be screened by the Customs and Border Patrol officer, who will now look at your passport, asking you why you're coming in here. And of course, seeing that it's a K1, you know that, yes, this person is coming to meet up with his or her fiancé for them to unite. So with that, that's the screening. If you get through that, you're now in the United States. You're now permitted to enter the United States. So when you enter the United States, you meet up with your spouse, not your spouse, you meet up with your fiancé, and then the next question is, what next? Yes, you can now apply for your green card after meeting up, after entering the country. No, I'm sorry, before applying for your green card, you have to get married within 90 days after your entry. So after the Customs and Border Patrol screening and you have united with your fiancé or fiancé, you will now be expected to get married within 90 days. So after 90 days and you will have gotten married, you can now apply for your green card. So that in a nutshell is what the fiancé visa process is all about. Now, one more important point is that when we're talking about fiancé visas, that is really a non-immigrant visa. So the fact that you're even coming here to meet up with your client, with your fiancé, does not in itself say that, give you an immigrant status. That is still a non-immigrant status because you're coming in with a non-immigrant visa, but then you're able to now adjust to an immigrant visa. That's the green card. So I received some questions, and I'm going to be answering some of these questions during the presentation. So the first question one has asked is, what if I am not able to attend an interview, or having attended an interview? I guess the question is, what if I'm not able to attend an interview or to be scheduled for an interview because of COVID? Yes, during this period of COVID, that is expected. A lot of delays are expected, and so many things are backlogged. So you will say, for instance, assuming you have been granted, your petition for Fiancee Visa has been approved in the United States, and the approval notice gives you about 5 months, let's say 5 months. And within 5 months, you still have not heard anything from the National Visa Center asking you to be scheduled for an interview or scheduling you for an interview. That is expected. Everyone knows that there's COVID, and these state agencies, they also know that there is a delay with the processing. Some embassies, or most embassies, have not resumed consular services. So that is expected. And what do you do in that circumstance? Well, I will urge you to be in contact with the National Visa Center. Let them know that your country is not yet accepting or processing consular visas. So they are aware, and what they will do is they will automatically extend that date. So don't panic and think, oh, it's already 5 months and I've not gotten an interview notice yet. No, don't panic, because they are aware. They will automatically extend that and you'll still be able to come in. So I also have another question about how long is the visa valid for? And like I mentioned, it's usually for about 5 months. And there's a question about, what if after entering the United States and we decide not to marry within 90 days after the entry? Yes, that's expected. And it is not uncommon. Unfortunately, because this is a non-immigrant visa and it is for a specific purpose, you are expected after entering the United States to get married within 90 days. So if you don't get married within 90 days, that means your fiancé status is automatically, sorry, let me take that again. So if you don't get married within 90 days after entering into the United States, it means your fiancé status will automatically expire, because that's what it is for. So you come into the country, and for 90 days you don't get married, then it means you're no longer going to be in that fiancé status, and you may be subject to other immigration consequences. Also, I want to mention that fiancé visas cannot be extended, so you can't ask for an extension beyond that 90 days, okay? Unless they're very, very extenuating circumstances, but they rarely do grant extensions. So now, what that is before you get into a relationship, please try and make sure that it's something you'd want to move into or go along with, because you just don't want to come into the country, you get your fiancé into the country, and yes, things happen with relationships, but try and find some time, make both of you nurture that relationship so that when it comes, it'll be smooth sailing for the couple. I do have another question which says, can I apply for work authorization after entering the United States with a K-1 visa? And the answer is, yes, you can apply. So after you have entered the United States, you can apply for work authorization. But here, when you apply for work authorization, it's going to be only granted for 90 days. And that's that time that you're allowed to get married. Because if you don't get married, then it means you will no longer be in that status. So you can apply for work authorization within that period and allowed for that validity period. However, after the 90 days, you can now apply for your green card, and with that, you can apply for an extended work authorization. That one usually comes with the package, your green card package, and that can have up to, you can have up to 1 year of work authorization. The next question is, what if I have filed fiancé visa for someone else before? Yeah, that's a big question, and that's a good question. So there is an act, it's called the International Marriage Broker Regulation Act. And what that does is, it does not allow you to file multiple petitions, fiancé petitions, for subsequent petition for people. So if you have petitioned for someone before, it is very important that you let your lawyer know, especially if it is more than 2, if it's up to 2. You have to let your lawyer know, or you have to take notice of this when you're filing, because that is a big factor. You really, really have to disclose that information. The next question I have is, what if my fiancé has children? Can they enter the United States with my fiancé? And the answer is yes, they can enter, but there's a catch to that. The children have to be unmarried and they have to be under 21 years. They can enter the country on a K2 visa. So I do have a lot more questions, but I will answer just 2 more, and maybe if you have additional questions, you can call me after the episode. So it says, if my children are admitted, can they file adjustment of status application with the fiancé? And then yes, the answer is yes, so long as they remain unmarried. And then the last question is, so if I'm an LPR, and like I said earlier, the question is, if I'm an LPR, how do I bring my spouse? So if you're an LPR, because fiancé visas are not available for LPRs, that's lawful permanent residents. So the way to bring in your spouse will be one of these options. One is you either wait till you become a citizen, then that way you can file a fiancé visa for your fiancé or fiance. Also, if you don't want to wait that long, you can now go ahead and get married to your fiancé, and now you become husband and wife. And that way you can now file an immigrant petition for your spouse, and your spouse will be able to come into the United States. So that's all I have now for this episode, and I hope you found this helpful. Thank you for tuning in. Feel free to like our page. Feel free to share with others who might need this information. And don't forget to subscribe to Tempo Afrique. And most importantly, if you have questions, feel free to contact me, and I will be willing to discuss more with you. The number down again is 713-730-2900. Thank you, and see you next week. Bye.